Hi everyone. In this video we are going to learn about interface. So let's see what is an interface. So any service requirement specification is considered as an interface. So if you see from the client point of view, an interface defines a set of services which it is expecting, and from the service provider, if you see, it's the set of services that are being offered from the client side. So if you put all this together, it's actually a contract between a client and service provider. Okay, that's how you can define an interface. Yeah, now we'll see how to create an interface and how to define the members within the interface. So in one of the project and under one of the package, I'm creating an interface with name sample I. So this is the interface. Under this interface I'm going to create two variables. One is of type integer, as I will initialize this to 20, string variable name, I will initialize this to null, and also I'll create an abstract method void m1. So this is how you will create members in the interface. Interface will allow only the abstract method, but it won't allow concrete methods. If you try to add the method body, then it will throw compilation error. So it will only allow the abstract method, and all the variables defined within the interface will be public static final variables, and we have to provide values for these variables. By default, if you are not providing this modifier to a variable with defined within interface, automatically the compiler will add this modifier. Even if you are providing it explicitly, there is no harm, it will still work. So by default, all the variables of the interface will be public static final variable, and all the method, abstract method, will be public by default. Okay, so this is what about the member within the interface. Next, now we'll see how to extend an interface from another interface. So we already have an interface defined, so let's create another interface. Say this interface name is sample I2, and this contains some variable z which is initialized to 20 and method m3, and this is extending sample I. So this is the single level hierarchy where one interface is extending another interface. We can also create another level of hierarchy. For example, I am creating another interface with name sample I3 which is extending sample I2. So this is the multi-level hierarchy. Single level, multiple and multi-level inheritance all are possible with interface. So far we have seen the single level and multi-level inheritance. So let's talk about the multiple inheritance. For example, I have two interfaces, sample I and sample I2, and from another interface I want to extend to two interfaces at a time. Okay, that is possible. Just provide the comma separated name for the interfaces. That's how you can achieve the multiple inheritance through interfaces. So if your interface is extending more than one interface, then it's a multiple inheritance. So this is possible in the case of interfaces, but not in the case of classes. So this is all about extending the interfaces, let's see how to implement an interface from a class. Yeah, now I'll create a class sample which will implement the interface sample I. Okay, so see here there is a compilation error because we are implementing sample I, but there is an abstract method defined in the sample I which is not been implemented in this class, right? So let's try to implement that method. Okay, we can write any logic. For now we are not bothered about this logic, but see here still we have a compilation error saying that, yeah, because the visibility is reduced. See this, all the abstract methods within the interface will be public by default, but here in the class you are making it as default. Automatically the compiler will add the public access specifier to all the abstract methods in interface, but when you're implementing that method from a class, then you should also keep the same access specifier for the method, so it should be public always. You cannot reduce that. If you reduce that, then you will get a compilation error. Okay, so this is how you will implement methods, abstract methods of interface. Okay, let's try to access the variables of interface from the class. So I have created a main method now, and I will try to access the variables of the interface. Yeah, see I'm trying to print the x variable value. Now I'll print name variable value. There is no compilation error, I'm able to compile it. Let's create the sample object. Okay, and try to access the variable x and name from the object, right? Similarly, I can also access the name variable. It's possible. So this is how you will implement the interface from class. Now we'll see how to store the implementation class object in interface variable. So far we have seen creating an object and storing that object reference into a variable of type same class. But now so if you see here in the example, sample I is an interface and sample is a class which is implementing this interface, right? So we are creating object of sample, and we can store that object in a interface variable called sample I. See here. So the benefit what we'll get from this is, in future, suppose we are referring to a new implementation class of this interface, then we can simply change the object here. But this variable might have referred in so many places, so there is no need to touch all this code. Just change the implementation class details here, so your code will be loosely coupled. Okay, that's the main advantage of this, one of the main advantage. Yeah, so next one, can we instantiate an interface? The answer is no. So this is also an important question in interview, where you will be asked whether we can instantiate an interface. The answer is no. Okay, and there are no constructor for interface, right? So we cannot instantiate a interface. Yeah, the other point, before that, let's see what we have covered so far. We have seen how to define interface, how to extend interface, how to implement an interface using a class. We have seen what are the methods and variables of an interface, how to store the implementation class object in interface, can we instantiate an interface, question that. So far we have covered all this, the last point. So there are certain list of modifiers which are not allowed for interfaces. Those are these. private, protected, default, final, static, strict fp, synchronized, and native.